Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well. If I could get a quick sound check because I moved all my equipment around. Hey, Copycat and everybody, hold on. Copycat. Bitter Critter, good morning. Who'd I miss here? Did I miss anyone? Oh, Bitter Critter, I didn't see you there. Good morning. Prepper Cowboy, Joe, Arkansas. Well, Arkansas Whoop-Ass, not the other Arkansas. We got a few Arkansas. What do they call people from Arkansas? Is it Arkansanians? Because we got like Texans and New Yorkers or Kansans. I always wondered about that. Anyway, if one of you guys from Arkansas can enlighten my blood. What are you two doing? So we had fighting potatoes over there. And badasses. Awesome. What's funny is the potatoes are fighting and the little fluffy guy is hiding under me right now. He's like, nope. The girls are fighting. I want no part of that. How is everyone this morning? And what is your weather like? Because we had some really weird weather last week. And I know some folks are still, I don't know if you all saw that short I shared of that pickup truck getting spun in a small tornado on its side. And then it got flipped over. And the person drove off in the truck that was just spinning around. So I'm not sure if anyone caught that one, but what is your weather like right now? Are y'all doing okay? So, guys, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on this last week. So, my company, weather's awesome here in Kingston, Arkansas. Okay, yeah. West Texas is beautiful today. It's like a nice, it's 45 degrees. It's kind of like you need a vest or a little hoodie. By the end of today, you're going to lose the vest and hoodie. But it was super nice. It was nice and cool. I love this time of year out in Texas, assuming you don't get the tornadoes and stuff like that. Guys, I got a couple. I want to try and change there's been a lot of doom and gloom. And it's not people doing it on purpose per se. It's just there's a lot going on, and a lot of the channels we're trying to keep people aware of what's going on. But I'm going to change gears here. I want to show some stuff I've been doing because it's stuff I think everyone can do as far as making yourselves ready. But I did want to share one little piece. Let me see if I can find it here because somebody messaged me about it, and okay, now it's just being weird. Here we go. Let me know if you guys can see this. Oh, promo code's available. That's worthless. So notice Classic Chevy is now advertising. This is in Fort Worth. That kid who got spun around in the tornado. Yeah, unfortunately, it is doom and gloom. Hey, Hillbilly, what's going on? Hey, Shift. So the kid that got spun around in the tornado was actually in Texas, and he was coming back from his first job interview. I kid you not. He had just interviewed. He had called his mom before he left and said, Mom, the interview went really well. I think I got the job. And the parents told him, hey, there's a storm. If it gets bad, pull over. And the kid's like, no, I got it. And he starts hauling butt in his truck. And he got caught in the tornado. And he got spun around across the highway. And then somehow, by, the miracle of his angels, he got flipped onto his tires. And he hauled ass and drove away. He got a new job. He got the job. And not only that, the company that hired him and the local Chevy dealership and a couple other local companies chipped in and bought the kid a new pickup truck. So the young man's got a new job and a new truck and an amazing story to tell his kids one day. Yeah, he got, so I thought that was some good news here. It was actually in Austin. A teen driver who survived being hit by a tornado says he's getting a new job, and a North Texas car dealer wants to give him a new truck. The video of the 16-year-old teen Riley Leon in his red trucks. He'd been reviewed thousands of times. He was coming back home from a job interview at Whataburger. Get this kid. Company spokesperson said Thursday was understanding that he had been hired at their Manor location. He was awaiting confirmation. His truck was hauled away by the family's insurance company, obviously. He provided a picture of the truck before it was smashed by the storm and explained its personal loss. And that's the young man who's going to have an epic story for his friends. Let's see if we can get this audio to play. Yeah, more investment people. I'd love to play a video without a damn commercial. Is there any audio here? I'm not hearing the kid.
RILE RILEYLEON.
Hey, Lucky. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, Puddle.
Physically and health, I'm doing good. Still shocked.
Can't take Joe out in public. He just says,
like I had said,
he says bad things in a very classy way. Actually, that's quite impressive, Joe. I got to give you that. All right, don't get in trouble, Lucky.
Actually, I go to school in Austin.
So,
you remember?
Yeah, so super shy kid too. Good Lord. I can't hear him. The audio's terrible on that video. I can't even hear him here. Anyway, Riley will be getting a new truck. Officials with the Elgin Police Department tell Fox 7 a car dealership in Fort Worth reached out to them and said Chevy, together with Bruce Lowry Chevrolet of Fort Worth, are donating to him a 2022 Chevy Silverado 1500 in cherry red in replacement. I guess the insurance company is going to help with that as well. But yeah, but you say it classy, Joe. So you know that was good. Yes, and tell Mr. Hello. That was pretty cool. It's nice to see a good story every now and then, right? Because and I mean that could have ended really badly. But you know that kid spinning. God, could you imagine? I mean, do you even have thoughts at that point? You're just reacting. I mean, the kid's obviously on his side. I don't know what he was doing, probably holding on for dear life, and all of a sudden, poop, he's back on his wheels, and the car's still running, and he said, "Shit," and he took off down the highway. My wife won't let me do the public thing. Joe is legend. Joe is legend. Oh, I do too. God, hey, in between. What's going on, Nikki? How are you? So yeah, it's definitely been interesting out here. And oops, that wasn't what I wanted to click. So folks, this last week, my company had third-party analysts come in, and we were doing a market review. And it just happened to be people who were involved in not just the energy sector, you know, oil, gas, solar, wind, geothermal, but also one of their analysts was a commodities person. So, you know, oil, not just oil and gas, but gold, silver, copper, food, wheat, you know, et cetera. You guys kind of know where I'm going. Hey, Guardian Angels, absolutely. Yeah, but Joe, watching the stupids when you don't have to deal with them is actually quite amusing. Like, it makes me happy when I see someone stupid have a failure because of their stupidity. It gives me glee. I know that's kind of terrible, but you know, I guess misery loves company. I don't know. But in any case, these analysts were kind of giving us a market review for our sector, you know, competition and stuff like that. And then they went into the larger global market. And that's where it got really interesting. And I managed to get one of these guys and one of the girls on the coffee pot after they did their spiel. I saw them walk, you know, because you have the presenters and then they go get coffee and a new presenter comes up. And I kind of left my seat and ran to the coffee room. And so this was interesting. So we all know, you know, with the thing going on in Europe, right? The Russian oil, yeah. So Russia only imports about 3% of its oil and gas to the US because we got our own between us and Canada and Mexico. We kind of got our own stuff, and then we get stuff from the Middle East, and we send natural gas to Europe. So, we're kind of covered. We don't really engage Russia and China too much. And I said, all right, so how's this working? And basically what happens is when Russia's oil comes off the market, the price of oil is set on the global quantity available, right? So stupid people shouldn't breed. Yeah, unfortunately, those are the ones that breed the most. I think that's part of the problem. But in any case, we'll pass. In any case, and by the way, thank you for that email the other day. I did appreciate that. Basically, the total quantity of oil in the open commercial market is what the price is based on, right? So you have X oil, here's your supply, here's your demand, and wherever they intersect, supply demand 101 is your market price. So what happened was when Russia drops off, that supply curve suddenly shifts straight down, right? And hence that's why the oil price went up. And he said, given time, that's going to even out, right? Because what Europe's going to do, they're going to pivot. They're going to be like to Russia, they're going to try and get stuff from somewhere else. We're going to try to drill a little more if we can get the leaders to agree here domestically. And that's a whole nother show. But, the solar, the oil and gas, the wind, everyone's kind of all hands on deck trying to get those kilowatts into the system. So everyone's shifting, right? And the market takes a while to shift. So he said, you're going to see that increase. What worried him is the food disruption. And I said, all right, so this is your specialty, right? This is what this guy and girl do for a living. They study this shit. And they get paid buku bucks to just watch the stuff. And she said, okay, this is what they're thinking. And I'll try and find an article that she directed me to. But basically, because that part of the world produces significant amounts of wheat, and obviously no one's harvesting right now, right? Because they have tanks and helicopters going across the damn farm fields. So that's going to throw it off. Brazil, Argentina, and the US can't make up that shortfall that quickly, right? That's even worse than oil and gas, right? Because you want to put more wells online. That takes months. You want to grow a whole new crop in a field, that's a year, right? You got to finish the cycle until the next planting season. So, there's one article. Let me see if I can get this thing. And this is what they were pointing to, and why everyone's kind of freaking out in the public sector is because of stuff like this. So, the Russia-Ukraine war is causing wheat shortages. Here's why Canada can't really help, right? And it's common sense, guys, right? You plant certain crops at certain times a year, and if you catch the farmers off guard, they can't just unplant, right? If they planted soybeans and all of a sudden there's a demand for wheat, they can't just unplant. They have to finish the soybean crop and then switch if the weather is permitting. So the effects of the war between Russia and Ukraine have rippled well beyond the Black Sea, with gasoline prices rising, which we've beaten to death, and US President Biden warning about food shortages because of the fighting between two of the world's largest exporters. So, and this is where, let me see if I can get this. I don't know why I have a makeup. Somebody was using my computer to look up makeup ads. Here we go.
Prices rise by up to 20%, triggering a jump in global malnourishment. That's according to a report from the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization. The FAO said that it was not clear whether Ukraine would be able to harvest crops if the war, which Moscow terms a special operation, dragged on. Russia and Ukraine together provide 19% of the world's barley supply, 14% of wheat, and 4% of maize, making up more than 1/3 of global cereal exports. Russia is also a world leader in fertilizer exports. The FAO's food price index hit a record high in February and looks certain to climb further still in the months ahead. It said only part of the expected shortfall in exports from Russia and Ukraine could be met by other countries, and warned that 50 nations, including many of the least developed, depend on Russia and Ukraine for 30% or more of their wheat supplies. The FAO urged other countries not to impose export restrictions on their own produce. A number of nations worldwide have announced food export restrictions or are considering bans to protect their domestic supplies.
Okay, so you see where that's going to be a problem, right? Because think about it, if you're country X and you're like, holy cow, you know, we're going to run out of food, or there's going to be a food decrease, you're going to protect your own country. You heard what they said there in that video, though. So most of Ukraine and Russia's wheat product goes to, you know, places like Southeast Asia, Africa, which struggle to maintain their own crops. Certain African countries do very well, some do not. And so when you take a large portion out, and they say 30%, that's 30% of those countries, not the US, Canada, Mexico, right? We actually do pretty good between the three countries if we can agree on trade agreements and how things go back and forth. Actually, we can grow most of our shit and drill most of our shit between North America and then trade with South America. So the Western Hemisphere, not too bad. But if you take 30% out of the wheat market, say that's being imported to the African countries that are struggling or to Southeast Asia countries that are struggling, they start trying to buy from other places. And what that does is basically you start bidding wars. If you think about it, right? So again, supply drops, demand is staying the same, if not increasing. And what you're seeing is that price inflection point is going to go up. And actually it shifts, it doesn't drop. So supply shifts, and then where they meet goes further up in the intersection. And I really need to do the graphic because it's so much easier than me doing karate chop hands trying to explain supply and demand. But you guys get what I'm saying. Basically, supply drops off, demand's the same, price goes up. So even though it doesn't directly affect us, it will affect those other countries. Now, the UN, of course, being the globalist thing, they are, well, you know, don't limit your exports. Please export. But a lot of countries are like, well, wait a minute. I got to feed my people. Argentina and Brazil had a really shitty corn harvest last year. So they're relying on wheat and soy right now, depending on that time of year. They're kind of backpedaling. And I've been to Argentina. I mean, I've seen the farms. They're beautiful. I mean, if you ever go over, there's no UPS. Go to bed. Stupid ass. It's the neighbor's kids are running around the street, and he's like, you know, all 12 pounds of his fluffy ass. And the potato came to check on me. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So, you know, the farms in Argentina, Brazil, they have amazing capacity. But again, it's not a spigot. You don't turn on wheat, right? You have to plant it. It has to grow. You have to get rain. And then, of course, the fertilizer issue. Now, fertilizer, a lot of it comes from Russia. And that's adding. So it's basically... let me see if I can get that other article. Basically, it's becoming almost a domino effect, and that's why people are freaking out. Now, before I end the live, and I'm not ending right now, but before I end the live, I am going to go and talk about other routes all of us can pursue, because I found some today, and I had some conversations. I thought they were really interesting. Not with the analysts, but with local farmers at the farmers market. And we went early this morning. Yeah, pretty much. And honestly, Arkansas, whatever we're not making here, yeah, puddle, absolutely. But Arkansas, what we're not making in North America, between Mexico, US, and Canada, South America's making. And aside from Venezuela, which we're like this with them right now, Argentina, and Argentina's a little European. They're like quasi-socialist democracy, but they're still a democracy as far as that goes. They are still very good friends with us, as is Brazil, as is Peru and Ecuador. So we're shipping finished goods to them. They're sending crops to us that we don't make here. And between North and South America, we could probably just kind of handle our own shit. The problem is we've globalized stuff, and that becomes painful. Now, to Puddle's point, fertilizer shortages, and there is, let me see if I can find that video as well. Let me bring it up nicely, because sometimes it does not play well. Hold on. Nope, that's not what I wanted. So, by the way, some of the, here we go. Let's see if this works. All right. So, let me bring that one up. How the global fertilizer shortage is going to affect food. Right. So we are currently witnessing the beginning of a global food crisis, which the president finally acknowledged publicly. He probably knew months ago, to be honest. Okay. The people in the White House know shit that we don't. We learn shit because we're persistent in the preparedness community, right? We're always being nosy. We're getting kicked off of platforms. We're getting strikes. I've already got a whack on the head for a copyright thing the other day. Some of you were on that live, and they took the video off, by the way. They said you cannot because it's copyright. So next time I do that, I actually have a little disclaimer at the bottom, and I guess I have to talk through the video when if I share another channel's video. Like the Twilight Zone, I have to actually comment and say, look what they did here, and tisk tisk, you know, because if I just let everyone watch and we talk on the chat, it's a copyright violation. It's some loophole, and I haven't figured out exactly what it is. But in any case, going back to this, there were already clear logistical issues with moving grain and food around the globe, obviously due to the Rona. Crops are the basis of our food system, whether feeding us or animals, and without it, without secured supply in terms of volume and quantity, it can go sideways. So as you sit and read this, the article, well, it's going into other nonsense. So the cost of producing nitrogen fertilizer is directly linked with the cost of fuel. So that's one whammy, right? To make the fertilizer, you need, you know, fuel to do the process, the manufacturing process. But also you need certain raw materials, a lot of which come from Ukraine. So yeah, and you try to like do the little things to comply, and then it says no, but you don't know why. You know, it's like you're in your karate school, and you know one of the instructors kicks you but doesn't tell you why they kicked you. You just got a kick. You know, it just kind of sucks. So yeah, I went to one of those dojos, by the way. Like you weren't paying attention, and down you went. Or you became the uki for the day. For those of you unfamiliar, the uki is the person who gets demonstrated on the whole freaking class. And that happened because I had a smart mouth. So yeah, you stop getting a smart mouth in that dojo pretty quick, I'll tell you. But in any case, so this is what we're seeing, right? Fertilizer inputs to farming systems represent the largest single variable cost of producing a crop. So it's all overlapping stuff. Possibly, or maybe there are two ways to look at it. One is that, and that's a perfectly valid way, is that he's trying to exacerbate it. The other one is that he's getting pecked on by the media, by social media, by the mainstream media, by reporters, and they're like, hey. Also, if he can blame food shortages on Russia, that gives him an out on inflation. This is a timing thing. This is absolutely a timing thing. What happens in about, 6 months? It's midterms. They're going to blame everything on Mr. Putin. So it almost makes you wonder if this whole stupidity, yeah, we can go down that rabbit hole really quick, but this whole stupidity was timed around a midterm. I don't know. The last stupidity that gave everyone that was timed right before an election for president. You know, here's your October surprise. We'll destroy the world. So anyway, I'm going down rabbit trails, but you guys get what I'm saying. Yeah, that's completely possible. He wanted to create a food shortage, or flip side, Yeah, and there has been weather. There have been other factors going into it, but shutting down the supply chain the way they did, and then expecting it to magically appear again, it doesn't help. Yeah. Didn't the Aztecs say we were supposed to be destroyed in 2012? I wonder if that was simply the beginning of the shit. Like the Aztecs were off by a decade. It makes you wonder. I'm just throwing that out there. I like a good conspiracy theory. You know what's funny though? Is it me or have a lot of our theories come real? Like legitimately real? Like finding Moderna's patented genome in the Rona? Anyway. Yes, I do agree with that. What is stored and what is harvested is at a crucial point. Yeah. So when we went to the farmer's market, I did talk to some of the, oh, hey, Leslie. I know. And you know what blows my mind? There are still people in my circle, not my immediate circle, because I won't tolerate their shit, but in my larger circle who are like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. And in the very next Facebook post, or saying the fucking gas prices. Animal Farm or 1984, they will convince you not to believe the evidence of your own eyes, and they will rewrite history so that there's no reference point. I reread 1984 a couple of years ago, and it scared the shit out of me. You know, I read it in college, and I was like, all right, communism bad. Yeah. They are zombies. And I'll tell you right now, so I'm all out of conspiracy. They've all become true, right? They're no longer theories. You're reporting the news. You guys know I'm on multiple platforms, right? So I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. I don't know why I took off on TikTok the way I did. It's absolutely insane. But I've seen other content creators, and some from YouTube are there as well, but the attacks on some people in the preparedness community, or even just content creators, like one girl does dog videos, right? And she's just like shows how to train your dog. And the things that are being said, if someone said that to me or someone in my party in like a bar or restaurant, they get punched. And it's completely unrelated to the video, like the dog video. You know, the person's like, oh, if you want your dog to sit, and she says, use a cookie and get him to sit. And someone starts talking about like raping the girl. I'm like, what the hell? Okay, those are the people who are in this the zombie category that Bitter Critter's talking about. These are the ones that, if it really gets bad, are going to be in the streets trying to decide whose door to kick in. So I highly recommend that home security and home protection be an important part of preps, because the crazy is out there. I'm seeing it in the streets. We went to Dallas. I was sharing pictures with some of you guys on Discord. We went to Dallas, and then we've hit a few cities in Texas as we make our rounds. And, you know, we go and all the people are there doing people things. And then there's this nutbag that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, was not supposed to be doing what they're doing in the middle of the street, flipping out and, you know, running up and down the street. And the people are just watching this weirdness. And finally a cop will show up and chase the idiot away. But it seems very blatant now. And that's something that concerns me. So don't worry. Okay, in the defense of blue-haired people, I know a few little hipsters that have recently started reaching out to me going, hey, yeah, what you said last year, yeah, we get it now. We need help. So I can't define a woman. Oh, Lord. Yeah, just esa mujer una pendeja que no, I can't define a woman. Although, yeah, I won't even go to that person that I was not pleased. But I give kudos to the senators that asked hard questions, because that's their job. And what's wrong with blue-haired people? Lucky, did you turn your hair blue? She's like, no, I didn't, stupid. But I don't have any streets, only one dirt road. Hold on. Woo, the chat went by real fast. Dirt road is good. I defeat him. I used to have purple hair. Well, I had hair, right? And now no hair. So I just gave up on that. And I'm not going to color my head blue because I'll look like a really fucked up Easter egg. So we don't do that. Your reaction is priceless. So here's the good news. I spoke to the folks at the farmers market and I got to meet a lot of cool people. Some of them, one of them, I walked into one booth, and, saw the little white tents. I walked up and the husband and wife are sitting there. They're selling freeze-dried stuff. And they go, "Where do you work? We've seen you before." And I tell them the company, and they're like, "No, I work for so-and-so, but I didn't see you there. I've seen you somewhere." And Sassy looks at me and she gives me a wink. And I'm like, you may have seen me on social media somewhere. And I'll explain. And they'll go, "That's where we saw you." So apparently I'm now running into followers in the farmer's market, which is a good thing, I guess. Preppers coming. Well, you know what's funny? A lot of the blue-haired people, and I know not all blue-haired, you know what I'm talking about. A lot of them were about organic, growing your own, more self-sufficient, less corporate. I'm internet famous, or I'm creepy famous. I don't know. I'm ugly famous. I might be. Daughter dyed her hair pink. Oh, yep, that would do it. Yeah. Well, Arkansas is funny. Well, anyway, the blue-haired folks going to that, they that culture, that alternative culture was if you remember, those of you who are kind of like my generation group, they were about the organic and grow your own and the man and all that. I would think they would be embracing preparedness, like, "Oh, we need to preserve, we need to grow our own." And so it's you would think, and I've actually had people reach out to me who on their social media are blatantly like alternative rockers or something with the nose rings and the hair, and I mean they're really done up, and they're like, "No, you need to grow your own shit." And look at how I grew in my basement with a little light, which is funny because they'll show like herbs and lettuce, all these crops, and if you look really hard in the background, there's a bunch of pot in the background. I'm like, you're prepared for everything. If you get hurt, you just go to that last row and you're golden. You feel no pain for a few hours. Yeah, and honestly, it's become merged because I'm seeing like what used to be very conservative with tattoos all the way up their bodies. And back when we were kids, only pirates and like gang members had tattoos and shit. At least that's the stuff my dad used to say. So there was an article that prepping is going mainstream, and I thought that was so funny. And then I tried to save the article, and I wasn't able to hold on to it. Let me see if I can find it again. Oh no, this is the older article. Let me see if here we go. This is a more recent article. Let me see if I can get that shared here. And of all places, Silicon Valley. Let me see that little guy. "I used to make fun of Silicon Valley preppers, then I became one. In tech circles, gearing up for the apocalypse was cliche. Now it's a credential." So this is something I'm hearing, is that a lot of people are saying, yeah. And having a lifestyle and having a tendency to be violent in society are two totally different things. You know what I mean? And I agree with you completely. Well, and you would think I identify more as a hippie. Yeah, but you think about it. The hippie, my sister was a hippie, like in that generation. She was just a little too young to hit Woodstock because dad said no. But the kids in our family were way spread out, but she was the hippie of the family, right? The flower child. And she is very much into the grow your own, organic, only drink wine, don't drink alcohol, like liquor, because it's poison, and the companies are selling you garbage to eat. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, here it is. Well, what's funny, Whoop-ass, this article was from, when was it from? This is an older article, believe it or not. This was from 2020, middle of 2020. And it started, believe it or not, they started reaching people with video games, like, zombie survivor, and your little dude would go around the screen and you'd collect. I mean, think about it, right? We talk about it in real life. Well, young tech folks were playing the game, going, oh, collect wood, collect food, collect a weapon, and now the zombie appears, and you make your house, and it sounds funny to us, but they grew up with it. And then when things started going bad, they said, wait a minute, that game may be on point. So, well, I think what this is going to do is make things harder to get, to your point earlier. We're going to battle that availability thing, but we're all at least aware and ahead of the curve in awareness, if nothing else. Yeah, it is. So I thought this was really a cool article. It's a cool read. That one was in the New York Times, but honestly, it becomes, and some people don't want to call themselves preppers. They're like, well, I'm not a prepper. I'm just growing up in a very alternative. And that's the thing. I think the labels the media has given people do not jive with reality. Because like I said, my sister was the flower child of the family, and I could go talk to her friends who were blatant hippies, or they grew up around the hippies. I mean, the whole, Volkswagen color bus, Scooby-Doo kind of bus thing. And we could talk about growing your own crops and food storage and saving money by buying in bulk and dividing among people. And they totally jived with me. Right. I think the bottom line is, yeah. And if nothing else, I think somebody put here is puddle. I keep telling folks on the other platforms, prepping isn't for Godzilla or zombies. I mean, hypothetically, there could be a monster comes out of the ocean, but the chances are like, could we have aliens come down? Maybe, but, to our knowledge, science says that's the percentage. Could we have a massive hurricane? Hell yeah. Could we have tornadoes? Hell yeah. We just talked about a kid who got spun around in a tornado in a truck, which is probably the best Chevy commercial ever. Could we have power outages? Could we have the Texas freeze, but in Arkansas? Absolutely. All of these day-to-day reality things are why you should be prepared. Granted, yeah, you could have a Godzilla. You could have the Cloverfield monster comes out and runs around Corpus Christi or some shit. But that's not what we prep for. We prep for the riots. We prep for the Rona. These things that do happen. And I think people lose sight of that. They get some of the newer preppers, they get overwhelmed. So that's why very often you'll see me do these really basic beginner short videos. It's because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people are emailing me. I had a family from overseas email me, and they're like, I'm an expat worker's wife, right? So the husband was like an executive or something. And I'm like, I think of old ladies. And it's just, I'm trying to, I have these younger folks reach out, and this person from overseas, the husband was an executive, and she said that the company had told the families, hey, I don't know what the hell was going on. I don't know what part of the world, but they said, what would you recommend I put in a luggage bag? This is the dimensions of the bag. I have 2 kids, age 4 and 6. So I actually referred her to some other content creators on this platform and some of the other ones. I gave some of my recommendations, having been a dad of 3 kids during a hurricane, or 2 or 4. But, you know, from the sounds of it, this was a younger family. And she even put, she said, I never lived overseas before. I never really thought of myself as a prepper, but it makes sense. If nothing else, to be able to grab my shit and get out of the country. And basically what the company had told them was, if X occurs, all the families will be sent to this airport, and we already have chartered planes like on standby. We'll make phone calls, the planes show up. You get 1 duffel bag for the parent, 1 little backpack per kid, and 1 piece of luggage, and that's it. Everything else has to stay. And she was struggling like, well, if I flying from X and I wind up in another overseas country on a layover, what do I need to have? I got a little kid who's hit and miss on the potty, you know, and these are things I wouldn't think of anymore, but very relevant to her and her husband. So, you know, if those of you who are content creators, make sure to keep in mind those newbies that are coming into the system, because they need that guidance and encouragement. Think about it. If everyone had a week worth of emergency stuff and something happened, there wouldn't be a big panic, right? Everyone would just kind of hunker down and wait and see what's going on. So reach out to them. But anyway, going to the farmer's market was enlightening. So let me see. Ouch. So this guy is Coffee Energy, and he's rolling out of West Texas. And he, God, this smells really good. So this is Colombian. And I asked him, are you having difficulties getting beans? Because he roasts them himself. Yeah, luggage bag. Definitely. If you can find somewhere to put it up. Also, if in your preps you don't have a collapsible hammock, or not a hammock, and not a gurney, good Lord, the bed thing. I just blanked out. Anyway, the collapsible bed that the Red Cross uses, I actually own one after Harvey, because we had to bring a bed, and then they had places for us to sleep anyway at the Air Force Base. But it was all Army and Air Force and Guard, and we were all mixed together doing different shit. But we had the fold-out hammocks, because if you have to take in someone, they're not sleeping on the floor, you can actually put them on a bed. If you need to go, you have something to sleep on, especially if you have a kid, because you can put the kids on the hammock so they can rest, or the fold-out bed. So I have to do a video on that thing, because it's actually pretty useful. But this guy, he's out of West Texas, Odessa, actually. I don't know if he ships, by the way. He had whole bean bags, and then he ground it up for me. And I asked him, I said, are you having difficulty getting coffee products? Because that's something else the analyst said, was the coffee crops are not doing well. And partly from weather, but partly from supply availability and fertilizer and stuff like that. And he said no, but he's not dealing with the commercial distributors. He's dealing with a co-op. Hey, off the wall, what's going on? Welcome, welcome. He's going with a co-op of Colombian, Nicaraguan, and Bolivian farmers. And it's basically like the farm co-ops here. So they do sell to the commercial entities, but they're not like a Monsanto or a Tyson type thing. Yeah, yoga mats work great. Make sure they're more than a 1/4 inch, though, at least a 1/3 inch, or you'll. No, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, make sure they're more than at least at my age, I don't want to be sleeping on the floor, because I'm going to feel like a pretzel when I get up. But he said the private roasters in Texas, they are finding beans. Now, it was a little more expensive. This was over $10 for the pound, but it is custom ground. And he said if you want whole beans, he could give me whole beans as well. Whole beans will last longer. Actually, if you have a metal storage rack, and we've done this before, you take a yoga mat, to Puddle's statement, and lay the yoga mat on the shelf, and you can sleep on that. Just make sure, like, if the kids are on top, they're not being monkeys and a kid falls off and gets a black eye, because that's never good. Never happened in my family, right? Kids going to the hospital for being stupid. But yeah, so independent in the farmer's market, they are still getting coffee. It is inflated in price, so his price went up a few bucks. It used to be under 10, now it's over. But still custom roasted, and you're supporting a local farmer. And he said, yeah, I'm still getting the imports, and he's roasting them. He has a legit roasting facility in the back of his property, which he's taking a homestead exemption on. Those of you from Texas, you know what I'm talking about. Not homestead, ag exemption, because technically he's processing a crop. He played it right. So another farm. Now these guys cannot ship out of Texas because they technically go under the farm and market guidelines. There's a special law in Texas where you can make wine, beer, and certain farm products like this, dehydrated lemons. As long as you don't leave the state of Texas, you don't need a federal license. Like so, there are places out in Texas. Those of you from the state know that only serve wine and beer. So if it's only made in Texas, wine or beers, and we have a lot of wineries and beer manufacturing in Texas. That's from the old Polish and German families and the Italians that came here years ago. And then we get imports direct from Mexico to Texas. As long as it doesn't leave Texas, they can serve it in their facility. If they try to ship the wine to another place, then they have to get an ATF reg. So these folks are under, this food is made in a home kitchen. There's an exemption they get, but these are lemon slices. I just wanted to try them for mixed drinks and for iced tea and everything else. Trapped in a coffee tornado with a little bourbon poured in. That's not a bad thing. I haven't done the Irish coffee yet today. I might be tempted later. But this guy had everything. So he had, and I've hit him a few times before. It was actually his wife and brother that recognized me from my social media posts. So this guy has apples, but again, if you're not in Texas, he can't ship to you. And even if you're in Texas, he technically can't put it in the mail. So just knocked my stool over. He can't put it in the mail because he's technically not a licensed farm. It's kind of like a private purchase. It would be like me going to one of your properties and I buy like lettuce. You know, it's not official. I'm transacting with you directly. All right, Joe. Be careful over there, and I hope you all have a good day. But this guy had strawberries. He was starting to do vegetables, and he did say he had some pre-made meals that you put hot water in, and you get like, you know, spaghetti sauce. But he's still playing with that. He hadn't figured it out yet. He's working on the license to be able to ship. But if you are in Texas, when you go to the farmer's market, a lot of the people making product, if they don't have a formal license on their table, they may be going under this home ag exemption. They cannot ship in the mail, so they don't have a website. But if you call them, you can arrange, tell them, hey, I want these products, and they can meet you at a town or hold it for you at a farmer's market. So when you go there, your product is ready, and then you can transact then. So, right. So are you, Puddle, are you dehydrating them or are you freeze drying them? Because these are freeze dried, but a freeze dryer is super expensive compared to a dehydrator. You can get a dehydrator for under, well, you could get a basic one for under $100. But he told me there's also not having too many difficulties because they're ordering their food regionally. He said that's why his price went up a little bit, was because he's getting stuff locally. I got the same thing from the guy I bought steaks and fajita meat from at the other show, which was ironically a gun show, and he had the big fridge in the back, so it was pretty funny. See, and some of them, like the ones a little further up toward the Panhandle, a little north of the hill country, they are their grapes are literally behind them. So I guess it depends, because in the hill country, if I'm thinking of where you're thinking, the the vineyards are not physically near them. Like they process the wine, but they get the product from elsewhere. The ones I've been seeing are actual vineyards. Like I can drive, one of them's like Llano Wine outside of Lubbock, and you know, I drive, it takes me a little hot minute to get there. I can go there, and then they have the vineyard right there, and then they have an affiliate vineyard down the road. So you can actually physically see the grapes. But yes, you're absolutely right. Some of them don't. And as long as it's a certain percentage, which like bourbon, a whiskey is not a bourbon unless it's 51% or greater corn mash. Okay, yeah. No, this is acreage. Yeah, Fredericksburg. I was thinking near Austin, so I wasn't too far off. Yeah, that's and that technically would be a Texas wine because it's being processed in Texas. They're importing grapes, but they're fermenting locally, right? And then therefore the grape came in, but the wine was from there. Some of the wineries here, the ones I'm dealing with a little further out west, that soil, that kind of half dry, hilly, rocky soil, but it's flatter than it is in the hill country, is perfect for the Italian style grapes. Because if you think of Sicily and Palermo and those areas in Italy, right, they're very rocky, but they're flat and dry. They're not as green. And the grapes love it for some reason. And they grow zucchini out here. I didn't think you could grow damn anything but cactus and mesquite trees. There's a shit pile of zucchini in the spring out here. So I didn't know that. So I'm going to have to figure this out. But yeah, so depending on your state, you do have these exemptions. Oh, one last thing I've been doing. I've been testing different Mylar bags, right? So, and obviously, so what I did, I bought the macaroni from HEB. Hey, Klingon, welcome back. No worries. So make sure when you seal the Mylar, and this was pasta. So what I did, I'm going to have to do a video on it. I was able to engineer a food saver to put a vacuum on a Mylar bag without catching it on fire. For the record, yes, I almost caught one on fire. But I pulled the seal, and this has been 24 hours, and this is macaroni, actually. It's elbow macaroni. I tried it with rotini, and it had, yeah, Puddle, definitely look into the farm laws depending on where you live. They will make exemptions. You can also request an exemption in certain counties. If, for instance, you are, and I don't know what state all of y'all are in. I mean, some of you obviously Arkansas. I know you're in Arkansas. Check with your counties because they may give you a farmer's market exemption to where you can sell the product. And I don't know much about this, right? I'm more on the consumer and I'm looking for the deals to help people. Yes. And if you look at, so from where Color Drop was talking about, which is kind of around, you know, the Austin, it's very hilly, but you have a lot of water there and you get a lot of rain. And so for whatever reason, some of the grapes don't like excess rain, but other crops grow there very well. You go a little further west and northwest, and in the right time of season, the vines, it's very similar to those hilly Italian areas that become very hot and they have limited water availability. And for whatever reasons, the grapes thrive there. I don't know enough about the grapes, so I could be totally misunderstanding what's going on, but they're really nice out here. So, and Llano does, that's a winery I go to like every couple of months. I go get some new wines. Llano is a really, they can ship outside of the state. And I think it's $20 and you can get like 4 or 5 bottles, which to be fair, right now with the gas prices to drive to the winery and come back, it's easier for me to just call them and say, hey, you know what, I want these bottles, here's my credit card, and just ship them. Because for $25, that's not even half the gas I'm going to spend. You know, 2-3 years ago, easy peasy, but not right now. So yeah, it's cheaper for them to just ship it in bulk, and it shows up when it shows up. Hey, Annie, What's going on? Welcome. So yeah, look for those deals at the farmer's market. This is, let me see, I'm going to run off the screen here for a second. Okay, so also, you will say, oh, I grabbed the bag and now they're all looking at me. So this guy makes dog treats. So what he does, he dehydrates. He basically makes a fruit roll-up, but of meat. And guaranteed analysis, crude protein, 86%, is basically ingredients equal chicken. So he does it formally. The dogs love it. I touched the bag, and all of them came running over. So do you think they know what the bag means? No, there's no treat right now, dude. Also, the strawberries. Now, the guy did mention the clear Mylar bags. He says he tells people they'll only last about a month to 3 months. We've kept them for 6 months, a year, and they're just fine because it's not humid out here. If you're in a more humid environment, possibly not. Now, if it's a front and back Mylar, like this guy, the pasta done like this. So what I did, I put a vacuum on it and I threw the O2 absorber in it for good measure to take out any remaining oxygen. According to the bag manufacturer, this should last 20 years plus. So rice, and I spoke to them, I actually spoke to this Mylar bag manufacturing, the customer service and one of their marketing people. The rice, beans, dry beans, basically dry goods, rice, beans, oatmeal, flour, pastas, and white rice, not brown rice, because it has oils and those will sour over time. Those products, the dry products that I just mentioned, with the exception of brown rice, should last 20 to 30 years. I might not even be here by the time that shit spoils. No joke. But it is definitely, oh, here we go. And probably so. I think you're going to see a big move toward, I know it sounds funny, less globalization. You're going to see people are going to try to get their product closer to home or closer to the region. HEB, for those of you in Texas or down south, even if you're in Arkansas, Oklahoma, you've probably come through Texas and seen them. They source most of their stuff from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Louisiana, Texas, and Mexico. It's basically everything around Texas. And their costs are a little higher, but their supply chain, their product mix has been consistent even during the Rona. They did very well for a private company. So I think you're going to start seeing this. And actually, I saw this the other day, and I thought this really was relevant to some of the conversations we've all been having. Oh, hold on. The stupid thing here. And it's something we can learn from. And I've said it before, we need to look at the financial markets, look at the manufacturing markets. The companies have entire offices or consulting firms dedicated to this kind of analysis. So the chat zipped by on me. I guess it was a backlog of messages, and all of a sudden it went boom, and everyone went by real quick. Okay, there we go. Which company, Annie? HEB. Sorry. Yeah, so HEB is a grocery chain that's almost exclusive to Texas. I don't even think they have one in Louisiana. And it is for lack of a better description, a diversified grocery store, but they have everything. To be honest, yeah, and Color Drop has lived in Texas, so if actually they will ship. So if you go online, I think you can order stuff from HEB, but they get hit with the supply chain shortages. But because of the way they source most of their stuff, they are very quick to find alternatives. So like when the blue box Barilla pasta disappeared, and we were talking about that a month ago, like all the pasta went away. They pivoted, and I saw this invasion of these things. And I got some because I use them in soup, but it's Mexico's #1 pasta. This is no joke. Hold on, let me hide that screen for a second. And they had a bunch of these, and they're like 40 cents a little bag. But you think about it, you throw half of this in a can of soup, now you got noodles in your soup, done. There's a meal, right? So I bought some of these. I was going to play around with some recipes, and those are, for those of you who do Spanish cooking a lot, the vermicelli in Mexico is known as a fideo, but the fideos are not cut up like this guy is. It's literally the big roll of spaghetti, and then you have to squish it. Yes, they also have bulk seasoning section. They have a lot of bulk stuff. So, yeah, no kidding. So, yeah, some of this stuff, go to the, yeah, Nikki, they're so good. And they're easy to make. Yeah, rice-a-roni. Even if you're doing like a Campbell's soup, like the tomato soup, which really is just the tomato soup, you can throw a couple of handfuls of these little noodles in there and just let it simmer for a bit, and they'll get tender pretty quick because they're so small. And again, instant meal. And you guys have seen some of my kitchen videos. I like to cook with my preps to see what I can come up with and what is or isn't good. So guys, these stores that have shorter supply chains, they've been very consistent through the Rona, through the riots. They've been able to get product. And that goes back to this article, The End of Globalization. Because the Rona and then the war are showing the weaknesses of relying on other countries, a lot of countries are starting to pivot. And this is from Foreign Affairs, which they have some good articles out there. It says, over the last 3 weeks, the Russian economy has been overwhelmed by sanctions. Anyway, they cut Russia off from SWIFT, but then that screwed up the market. I was able to read. I should have copied it before. Now it gave me the stupid, you must pay your subscription. But anyway, yeah, you're going to start seeing this pivot. You're going to start seeing companies, people, communities trying to grow local, which is not a bad thing, trying to source regionally, trying to trade with their immediate partners. Yeah. Especially for food. And Off the Wall's absolutely right. Especially for food, first in, first out. Or worst case is oldest to newest. If you happen to buy the same product from different places and they have different expiration dates, put the earlier expirations to the front and the later ones to the rear. Now, the only thing, first in, first out, Klingon, and that's actually a business concept. There are two ways: there's first in, first out, and first in, last out. Rotating food depends on the expiry. In the past, I've said, hey, focus on one thing a week and focus on that. So I'll go like through all my pastas 1 week. Hey, Tennessee, what's going on? Another day, I'll go through canned goods. Another week, I'll go through dry goods, and I'll go through them and make sure we're using them. If I see something that has a expiration that's coming up and I didn't catch it, I'll move it to the front. I've also bought some products that it turned out I didn't use, and they went bad. I bought them thinking, oh yeah, we'll use this, and we never did. And I said, okay, that's a product I don't need to invest in again because nobody touched it. Even when we had like my son and his wife come over, we had younger people, older people. nobody touched it, nobody wanted it. So I'm like, all right, that's garbage. So I won't buy it again. I'll invest in something I know I'll use. And there is a little trial and error when you're stocking food. The Mylar bag stuff, again, 20, 30 years. So, but that's going to go in a bucket. So I have a ceiling lid for a bucket. It's not a Gamma lid. It's the competitor that I just blanked out on the name. And I'm going to make a series of videos on the different food preps, how I do them, because I use different methodologies for different types of food, depending on what in my mind I think I'm going to use it for. To watch replay, that's fine. Actually, I need to holler at you, Tennessee. There's I wanted to do a concept, and I'm going to need you, and I'll probably need a couple other people in our troublemaking circle. And off the wall might want to jump in on that too. But I'm trying to formulate the concept in my head, and while I'm not being bombarded from work, because right now my sector is completely insane. But yeah, I would check regularly. I've seen people, and what to off the walls point, see, and that's great. And I'm assuming using like a Sharpie or something. Yeah, you gotta rotate according to the expiration. And I do, like I said, every week I'll do a different aspect, and then I'll leave it alone for a bit, because you'll miss stuff, right? We're only human. We get busy with other shit. And so you pick one, and we'll go, okay, today is the canned food day. And I'll pull all the cans and make sure I don't have any expiries. I missed a couple. Every now and then I'll find a handful of cans, something I don't use as often as I thought I would. Or I needed it one day and I was like, well, I found it, so I'll buy 4 cans, but I only needed one. And then I never made the recipe again, right? So they just sat in there, and then cycling through. To prevent yourself from getting overwhelmed, Puddle, I would recommend, you could even do it on a schedule, like put it in your Sharpie marker. Yep. Okay, see, and off the walls, like next level. Every video I have one of these in there somewhere. And I'm sure off the wall and a lot of you can relate. The Sharpie is the world's best friend here. But yeah, guys, check those local markets. Everyone's cost is going up. Now it's kind of a question of availability and consistency, right? We can't change the cost structures. Right. And that's the thing. So I bought, when we first moved to this house, it was smaller than the last house, but it's just 2 of us. So we're like, hey, I got those the big black plastic racks from not the chinchy ones, the big ones, the nice ones from Lowe's, and I bought like 3 of them at once, right? So I put a couple of $100. I bought a pile of them, and I stock everything, Christmas stuff, foods, preps, outdoor shit. Everything has its spot. But being plastic, that kind of, some of them were like, right? And so now I'm looking at them going, crap, I didn't think of that. So I'm watching the prices of the more robust metal shelving units that you can find at like Sam's and Costco. See, and off the walls absolutely got a great idea. Try to do it every quarter. That's a reasonable system to do it. And yeah, and if you can't do it, like, because that's a lot of work, right? And off the wall, I'm sure has help. But even so, you have 2 or 3 people in the house. That's still a lot of work to get done, right? So if you can't do it all in one day, break it up, or you schedule quarterly by category. So like, okay, January, I'll check canned goods, and then set a reminder in your calendar or in your computer to beep you on your calendar in Q2 or Q3. Say, okay, 6 months check. I do the same with my firearms. I will go through, because I clay shoot. I haven't done any competitions this year because I just didn't have time. But yes, and check off the walls content, because there's other info there. It's kind of hard for off the wall to convey a lot of info on these little chat boxes. Yeah. So what I'll do, and I do the same for firearms and actually ammunition now, because used to do tournaments in Houston, so I've found like entire cases of 9mm and 5.56. And by the way, I looked at the prices and I look at what they are now, and it pisses me off, so I won't even go there. But I'll try to even use the older ammo as well. But yeah, schedule it quarterly, and if you don't have the bandwidth, especially you got kids or family running in and out, you may not be able to do all your preps in one sitting. So schedule one of them, like canned goods, January and June, and then February it's dry goods, February and July. You know what I'm saying? And just break them out like that. Okay, Tennessee, I've noticed that, and what I've discovered, I asked the HEB manager, who absolutely tells me stuff. So I love this lady over here. She's super awesome. And what they said was sometimes the products, so the canned goods that were probably all made in the same batch, half of it made it to the store, the other half sat in a warehouse because they didn't have enough truckers. Remember the trucker shortage, which we're still fighting with. And now they're finally making it, and the expiration dates are crappy and I got caught with that the other day. I bought some salad dressing just to throw on some greens, and I actually didn't look, and the expiration was like a week later. So I had to use the whole damn. I actually used it as a marinade, so I killed the whole bottle. But yeah, they're winding up. Product is getting stuck in warehouses for lack of transport or because of transport costs. And so the cans you got with a crappy date, like it wasn't a very good lead time to expiration, was probably made at the same time as the other shit you bought, but it sat in the warehouse and just now made it to the store, which sucks actually. So cleaning kit. So what I did, I actually made one. I got an old tackle box, which sounds really ratchet, but it's what I did. I got the brush and the different attachments for the different calibers on as a kit. I got one of those kits, but I broke it down and put it in the tackle box. In the tackle box, I also have rem oil. I use a silicone rag, and then I put my all the different brushes in a tackle box. You know the little inserts for your tackle box lures? Like, you put the worms, the frogs, everything. I actually put 223, 12 gauge, 30-06, et cetera, in different categories, and I labeled them. So I can open it and look and say, okay, there's my 223/22, and I pull out what I need. I've become a big fan of the bore snakes for the ARs, anything whatever the caliber is. I even use the bore snakes on my over-unders for tournaments. And one of my over-unders I've had for 10 years, I've got over 8,000 rounds through it. And you look in the barrel, it's immaculate. But I use the rem oil. I don't use solvent unless it's an older firearm, because the solvent really, with the newer guns and the chromed barrels, I can use the brass brush and just whack the shit out of it and clear it. But I'll take a picture off the wall. I'll send it to you. I actually made one out of an old Chinchi tackle box, so which is kind of sad. Oh, shoot, I hit the wrong button in the hole. Yeah, and it depends on the space you have. Yeah, and part of it, I don't think it was deliberate, right? They want to get the product sold, right? Because they're paying inventory costs on that. But they couldn't get it sent anywhere. And I think a lot of it was the trucker issues we were having. So yeah, yeah. So but I would recommend, depending on the weapon you have off the wall, if you're talking about like the Stoner platform, the ARs, the M4s, stuff like that. Again, I bought I forgot the name of the brand. Shit. but I basically made my own. But I do have the assembling cleaning rod as well as the solid cleaning rod, because I've had to use them if I get any kind of debris in the barrel. I recently test fired an HK 416, and I wound up with some debris in the barrel that I had to battle with a brush to get out, which was weird. I think it was ammunition related. And then I wound up putting a bore snake through it and clearing it out. I didn't use solvent on that one either. I stayed with the rem oil. I found it's less caustic to the finish of these newer firearms. But, oh, there's one for pistol. Right, and so the cleaning rod that you can assemble, if I'm doing a pistol, I just shorten it, and it's outers is what it is, outers. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hops. Well, okay, if you want to start one, HOPPES, the hops. Let me see if I can find the link for you. I would start with this one, and then let me see if it'll let me do that. I don't know if the... So, true story, when my older boy was in BCT, I remember that the Army doesn't give you the best cleaning kits. So I actually sent him rem oil. I sent him a bore snake. I sent him a brush. I sent him kit for his M4. And it showed up, and he's happily cleaning away. And his sergeant, one of the DIs, walked by and looked at him and goes, "Where'd you get that, son?" He said, "My old man sent it." And he goes, "Your old man carried one of those, didn't he?" He said, "Yes, sir." Or, "Yes, Sergeant." He called him "Yes, sir" once and got smoked for it. He said, "Yes, Sergeant." He goes, "All right, well, I don't see anyone else in there. So if I see anyone else with that, I'm going to smoke their asses because I don't want people stealing each other's shit." He walked away, and he said it really loud in front of, and the rest of his squad was like, "Dude, we might borrow it from time to time. We're not going to steal it." But yeah, he said it made his life a lot easier. I shipped one to my other son when he was actually in his AIT. And they said both boys said it was the best thing ever. So, but I would do the bore snake. Okay, and actually, off the wall, one thing I have. So I have ARs that are direct impingement, right? So it's like the M4. The gas hits the bolt carrier group and launches back. But I actually have a piston-fired one. My L-Rock, which is kind of like my ranch rifle. I've got a Trigi on that one. And that one I have to do a little bit different because it actually has a piston action, not a direct impingement. So you may need slightly different brushes for that. And but I just put, hey, the link posted, great. Okay, so absolutely. I would start with that, but I don't leave it in the box because the box annoys me, and I took everything out and stuck it in my toolbox. Hey, Naked and Afraid, how are you? So, but folks, look, I'm finding supplies and the prices are reasonable, but look for those stores that source regionally and hit the farmers markets. Also, I drove through Dallas and Austin recently, and I'm seeing the community gardens come back. So there was an apartment complex downtown. It was one of those like hipster complexes, and all these young folks were out there. And there were some older folks too, like retirees that have no kids, and they're like, "I don't want to mow a lawn. I'll get an apartment." And they were all out there, and they had a whole section of property. It was actually meant to be a traffic triangle, you know, where the highways split. And they pulled up all the concrete. It looks like it was done professionally by the city. And it had to have been about 2 acres, and the whole community was there on a Saturday. And there was one older guy with the hat. I guess he was the wise one. And he had a little book, and he's like talking to people, and he was helping someone pull up a plant, and someone else had a bunch of beautiful peppers. There must have been 50 people in this 2 or 3 acres. Each one had their own raised garden. And you could see they were coordinating it because we actually stopped at the light and I got to look at them for a bit. And one person you could see was growing green, like bell peppers of different colors, but someone else had jalapenos. Someone else was growing what looked like parsley. I couldn't get a good look. Hey, take care off the wall. So we're starting to see the urban gardens really come back. So if you guys live in a city, find some friends, make an urban garden, and then coordinate between you, right? So, because you have limited space in an apartment, if you don't have property, if you're like, hey, I'm going to grow hot peppers, what are you going to grow? And the other person says, I'll grow cilantro or whatever, cherry tomatoes. And everybody does something different. Then you guys can trade your little harvests. So you're gonna start watching the take care off the wall, be safe out there. Thank you. You're gonna start seeing that switch back to that regional, grow your own, grow in your community type mentality. That whole globalistic thing, you get into a good war and it all falls apart, right? And hopefully that war gets settled, because that's been ugly for the folks over there. I have friends who are Russian and Ukrainian, and they're all sad. It's like, that doesn't make sense. That would be like, it literally, to them, it's like having a civil war. It's just they're two countries, because the countries are so intermeshed in their history, and they think it's really sad. So, I'll pray for the kids there. But yeah, talk to your community, find some people, even if you just farm together, because chances are, if they're growing their own crops and they're storing their own food, they're probably like-minded, but they're not realizing it yet. But they're not stupid either, right? They see what's going on. So talk to them. You might make some new friends out there. Carefully, of course. But guys, I'm right at an hour and a half, so I'm going to shut it down. Thank you guys for coming by and coming to chat with me. I hope you guys got some good ideas. And I will be doing detailed videos on some of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, no, I know for a fact there are people who are Ukrainian that have a Russian mother-in-law. Or actually, I know someone personally he's Russian, or his wife's Russian, but the mother-in-law is Ukrainian or something like that, like one of the in-laws. And so the families, like, they used to go back and forth between St. Petersburg and Kiev to go for Christmas. And now there are tanks everywhere, and they're all wondering what the hell. So, all right, well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. You guys be safe out there. Check out the deals. Hit those farmers markets. And off the wall had to run, but Tennessee, a few of you guys, I'm going to reach out. I'm trying to get some videos put together, and I think we need to do some more peer reviews, so we might do that. Any case, if they let me do a live stream from the next shooting tournament, I will try to do that. I don't know how, because I have to carry the camera and shoot. I'll have to figure that out. You guys be good, be safe, and I will see you all hopefully next week. So be careful out there, guys.